The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.
Good morning and welcome to Superbranding on DZRJ-AM, Voice of the Philippines. And here's your host, Larry Bruhard.
Hey, hello, good morning, everybody. My name's Harry Tambuatco. Larry Bruhard was not able to come back in time, so I'm going to sit down with the show since both of us do the show anyway. And welcome to Superbranding. Now, exactly what is Superbranding? We have guests here in the studio, and they're asking, gee, what's the format for Superbranding? All we want to do is complain. Well, hang on. Superbranding, branding, the way we put it in Superbrands, is the consistent delivery of the brand promise, meaning whatever the brand promise is, if it is delivered with consistency without fail, it is called developing what we call an integrity. If you have the integrity, that makes the brand. So basically in life, unless of course you make so many promises like daan matuwid and no more poor because everyone is straight. So vice versa, if there's a lot of poor, then there's a lot of corrupt. I guess that's the political side of me, and I'm very, very political. So more than anything, the point of branding is basically everyday life. You and I, you listener on the other side of this radio, is sitting there trying to figure out, am I a brand? I guess the real question is, are you the brand? Branding is all about your ability to deliver whatever you promise. Now, if you don't make any promises and you don't want to say you're accountable or you want to do this or do that, you don't do anything and you're consistent with doing nothing, yes, you are the brand. You are the do-nothing brand. But if you are the brand and you make promises, now, if you can do it with consistency, that's what we call developing integrity. Now, if you have integrity, we call that the brand. So the next question, are all our senatorials, are all our congressmen, are all our mayors, are all our bankers who are supposed to be conservative and straight, and most especially the new people, the builders in this country who build all these nice buildings that come up and say, 8,000, you can buy that, just 8,000 a month, so why pay rent? You know, the sad part is the delivery of that promise is called BS. BS meaning bullshit. Now, what happens is because it's not true. What you read on the newspapers, the Truth to Advertising Act is not followed. There is absolutely no integrity. And if you have no integrity, you are not the brand. On this show, what we like to do is we try to talk about different situations, be it in life, be it in politics, world issues, situations, consequences, world news, whatever. The problem with media is we generate perceptions. Perceptions that are not necessarily true. Perceptions that are driven by specific interest. This is what we do. The problem with perception is it does not have to be real. But because of the bombardment of what we call the power of media, we create truths. Then we slant them to the way we want them, the proprietors wish them to be. Then they become truths. In other words, we generate public opinion. Your opinion don't count. It's what we in media want it to be. Sadly, that is the case. If you wish to participate and you want to give us your comments, you can call us directly in the station, the landlines being 895-4244. Now, the other number is 897-8374. Okay, we have guests in the studio. Hi, everybody. We're a full house. On my right side, we've got Dan Keener. He's an American, and directly opposite him is Iris Sunga. Hi, Iris. You have to go near the mics. Yeah. Iris is a Filipina. Uh-huh. Correct. We've got Joey on the other end of Iris, but he doesn't want to talk. Maybe it'll come out. Maybe it won't. And directly across him, beside Dan Keener, we have George DiCarlo, another U.S. American native. Is that correct? Hi, everybody. Thank you for being on the show.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Let me see. I tried to explain the meaning of superbranding in everyday life. Basically, the word is integrity. Now, you guys have decided to come and live here. Dan, tell us a very brief history. Who's Dan Keener? A U.S. American citizen, yes?
I am.
There you go.
American.
That very quickly, what is Dan? He's a retired millionaire in the Philippines, yes?
I wish. No,
Okay.
not true. Not true.
But you have decided to stay in this beautiful country. You have decided to retire here. Is this correct?
Well, yeah, you know, eventually when retirement comes, I'm not at that age yet, Harry.
Yeah.
I'm only 54, so
You're very, very
I
young.
I have a few years to go.
There you go.
Yeah.
But you're building up, and you're looking at doing a lot of certain things. And for one reason or another, you're in the Philippines, and you're invested. Is this correct?
Correct, yes.
You have bought yourself a unit, and you're staying in one of these posh units. Iris, let's look at the commonality. You are also, well, you're Filipina, so obviously you can own as well here. But then you can own as well, because we're talking condominiums here, right?
Right.
These are residential units that are sprouting all over the place. And it's open to foreigners because these are real estate that's not limited to just Filipinos. Iris, you've decided to move on to these high rises as well.
Yeah.
Where do you stay now? Where's this contentious area that's so problematic?
I'm staying at bel-air, Soho.
bel-air, so nice building. You've been there a long time. Has the building been finished, or is it still a dream?
Well, it's been finished.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tapos na, and it's
for
physically
7 years, yeah.
7 years, and they've turned it over to you. Dan, is the building you're staying in still a dream, or is it actually made of concrete and it's all up there?
No, it exists. It's a 40-story concrete
Wow,
condominium
tall.
that was finished in 2008.
You must be very happy with this because they've delivered the unit.
Well, not necessarily so.
Okay, let's get back to that. George, you're the same way. You've invested in the country for one reason or another. You've stayed in the Philippines. Are you married to a Filipina?
No, my partner and I.
Yes.
He's Filipino,
Okay.
and he had moved to the U.S. Immediately after university, and then after about 14 years, we decided. Well, before that, several years ago, we decided to buy a condo. We actually bought two, and
Excellent.
we decided to move here. And so he's working here, and he also is going to graduate school. I still do work for a company that I worked for in the U.S.
Oh, all right. So you go back and forth.
Well-
but you're invested in this country.
Yes.
What unit and what building are you staying in?
We're at Soho Central and
Soho Central.
in Mandaluyong. Which
So we're
is-
talking about 3 different buildings here.
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, tell me what the commonality is. Can you explain that?
The developer.
Oh no, we're gonna hit these developers. Consistency, no branding. Let's hear it straight from Dan.
Well, you know, I'll try to make this short, Harry. But when I came here,
Don't make it short. Take your time, as long as you explain it. This is not one of those.
It's
fast,
a really
fast,
long.
fast, fast
It's a
radio
long
shows.
story, but the condensed version is, you know, 7 years ago when I came here, we know that the U.S. was going through the beginning of its financial woes.
Yes,
The real estate market was in decline.
correct.
And I came here initially on a vacation, but also intending to look at, you know, possibility of a place to ultimately retire and do some
Excellent.
investing.
That's what we open our doors to, supposedly. That's what the president says.
Well, we
Let's
certainly
find out.
need it.
All
And
right,
When I
all
say
right.
we, I mean, you know, the Philippines.
Yes,
but,
yes.
But, you know, after coming here on an initial 21 vacation day stay, I thought that it would be a good opportunity to invest, that the market was
It is.
appreciating, growing.
It's supposedly.
Yeah. And I did so in 2006
Okay.
with a company that I had thought was reputable because of their big
What's the
brand.
name of this company?
Century Properties.
Century Properties. They have properties all over the place. They advertise like crazy. They're even in television, and they're always saying that they are proper deliverables. We are out to disprove them this morning. Go ahead, Dan. What's the main problem with this unit of yours?
Well, you know, to start from the very beginning, the two salespeople who I made initial contact with via
You
the
were duped. You were duped.
I was duped. Yeah.
Right.
It turns out that the two people who were the sales folks, a Filipina girl and a Italian,
It can happen.
yeah,
Fast,
had-
you know, whatever.
Yeah, they had an online company, Condominium. They
Yes.
were sales agents, brokers for Century Property. They basically handled the initial part of the transaction and then turned it over to Century for
Right.
the
But
closing.
were they real representatives of Century,
Well,
as it turns out?
that question still hasn't been answered,
Oh, it
Gary.
hasn't been.
I've been asking that question for 4 years. I haven't gotten a satisfactory answer. From my understanding, they're not a legal, legitimate, registered corporation. They're not
Right.
registered with the HLURB. They're not in compliance
Oh
with
my
Philippine
gosh.
laws.
Oh.
But, the trail went cold when I started asking questions that I
Right.
have a right to as an investor
Of
and a
course.
homeowner.
No, and you bought property, you paid in goodwill, and then you find out the people who are transacting this turn to a second party or a third party, turns around and say, well, I'm out of that, I wash my hands. No, you can't be a Pontius Pilate in this case. They are likewise responsible. And in this case, I'm sorry, it's got to be Century Property at the end. So they did turn over your unit. What's happened? Discontent.
Yeah, the representations made in the initial sale
Were bogus.
verbally and in written advertising were bogus.
Okay.
The representations were just blatantly untrue. And those were the things that compelled me to make the
Right.
purchase in the first place.
Correct, of course.
Yeah.
So truth to advertising did not play a proper role. You were duped. You were being sold on a misnomer, and everything was bogus. It was incorrect, and you bought in. And anyway, you're in now. You have no choice. You're into the transaction. I doubt that Century Properties will return your money. And should they should pay you the valuation of today's assessment, not what they think it should be. But that is not necessarily the case. So you brought your case up to the Century Property owners or developers, management, whatever. Have they been cooperative or have they been mean?
Mean is a kind word, I think. in
Okay,
this-
we're going to try and put a stake to their heart. Let's go to Iris. What's your problem, Iris?
Well, actually, apart from being a condominium owner, I'm also a real estate broker and
There
the
you
property
go.
manager.
Oh, okay.
So I manage the properties that.
So you know the ropes.
Yeah.
You know the
exactly.
ropes. Oh, poor Dan here was taken for a ride being a foreigner, which is wrong, mind you. These, without retribution, there is no such thing as redemption. But then again, we know that our courts are the most attractive and most effective in the world. It only takes 100 years to go to court in this country. And resolutions are up in the air. It's like faith. That's all you have that's given to you. But go ahead, Iris.
Okay.
What's been your point of discontent?
Well, the thing is, the problem with advertising is that they do advertise what they're doing that's good. What the building is about, what the development is, and stuff.
You're saying no
But-
quality, poor quality.
Well, quality is I just don't want to comment on quality, but the thing is, they don't actually advertise what will happen after you buy the building.
Well, what can happen after? So
Well,
you paid for it.
you
So
paid for it.
You move in.
You moved in.
They give you a document that says the property is yours.
But they don't actually, during the time that they sell you the unit, they would not actually disclose that after selling you the unit,
Yes.
after paying for it
Yes.
for so many years, that these people will continue on getting money from you.
How?
Well,
But you're not paying rent. I can understand association dues.
Yeah.
But other than that, you paid for it, sealed,
that's
signed.
the thing. They would retain themselves as the property manager of the building, and then they would charge you with these association dues, which they never will give you a report or an account for.
No accounting, but they
Yeah.
continue to charge. But aren't developers, when they're finished, unless they retain and become or stay homeowners as well, become the congregate whole of all the homeowners that vote to make what we call an association. Di ba? Am I right?
Yeah.
So how can the developers say that they're still the association if they're not voted into that management group called the building association?
Well, that's the thing.
That's
That
the
is
problem.
scheme that they have been doing. So
okay.
it is a scheme that has been
But-
happening to the other condominiums.
So, okay. You mean you've been finding out that this is a practice? Maybe what you can do is create an election of a majority of the homeowners and boot them out totally.
Well, that's what we try to do.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't
In
work
fact-
that way.
It's not going to happen, Harry, because as cynical as I might sound saying this, we are a condominium association
Right.
who is not allowed to associate. We are not
Wait,
given...
wait, hold on. You just said you're a condominium association
Right.
who are not allowed to associate.
Right.
Wait, that's oxymoron.
Well, it is, but the fact of the matter is that the developer who inherits management by hiring
Oh
themselves.
my God, it's dictatorship.
They maintain control of the board of directors. They maintain the law firm that's supposed to represent the condominium association, who are also officers, stockholders, and directors of the developer. I mean, it's a huge
yes.
conflict of interest.
You know.
But the problem really is that they maintain control of the address and every phone number and email of every homeowner.
And they can make life very miserable for you
Well-
after investing into the unit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
What they do ultimately is deny us our rights. Right?
Hang on, we're going to get to that. George, Joey, what's your beef?
Yeah, the main problem has been unit owner control of the buildings, and we don't have it since the boards are controlled by the...
How can you not have unit control? You're the one who lives in
yeah,
it.
well,
you have the document that says you
At
own this
time
unit.
of turnover, which would make sense, the developers are sitting on the board because they have things to make decisions of. But they maintain their position on the board. For instance, we had an election, well, supposed to be an election in 2011 in Soho Central, and the election was illegal, not being conducted correctly according to the master deed and laws of the Philippines. In 2012, as has happened in other
Right.
buildings, they said that there was no quorum and they walk out. So the
Oh my
annual
gosh.
meetings, there's always a way to cancel the annual meetings. And you brought up about, they turn over and you own the unit. That's another problem in the Philippines, which I've had to tell people moving here, is that like in the U.S., when you have closing, all the paperwork is exchanged, the checks,
Yes,
the paperwork.
delivered.
But here, you'll get the absolute deed of sale, maybe, but the title's the main problem. Getting the title in our building, there are people, after they paid in full, a year, 2 years later, they still do not have the title. And I have to explain to even Filipinos
Yes.
that here they're allowed to use that title without your permission as collateral for other works that they're doing. In the U.S., that's
ridiculous.
illegal.
That's not allowed. That's common sense. I don't need to be a lawyer to figure that out.
Yeah, and as far as condominium associations, right now, condominiums have to have a corporation. So ours is Soho Central Condominium Corporation.
Yes.
A homeowners association, as was brought up by Dan, you need the contact information for all the unit owners since they're not in the building, they may be overseas. And it's a part of the Magna Carta for homeowners.
Yes.
Well, we don't have the contact information, so you're in a predicament, a catch-22 situation where you want to do it, they're not cooperating and giving you the contact information, so how do you get that majority at a special meeting to form a homeowners association?
You know what it is? Basically, this is called, ladies and gentlemen, abuse. This abuse is deteriorating the opportunity of opening our doors to foreign direct investment, be it in this case real estate. Now, they're not only duping foreigners, obviously they're duping Filipinos. Based on Iris here, who is already a practitioner in this field, finds that this practice, this abusive practice, this dictatorial practice, this illegal practice is a mainstay and seemingly the way it's being done everywhere. Now, I'm not sure it's a good thing to say don't buy any condominiums in the country. I think the right thing to do is let's put to shame these idiots, these illegals, these bad people who pose themselves in big corporations who advertise non-truths and deliver nothing. They have no integrity. Unless they're willing to call and, hey, why don't you call these numbers? And let's see if you have the guts to answer back. 895-4244 or 897-8374. Or just stay there and keep receiving the needles and pins and arrows we're going to throw against you. Incidentally, that's not Valentine arrows. These are arrows that we hope will draw blood. Not because it's red, not because of any fragrance, but because we want you to suffer retribution before any redemption. This is the case. Yes, Iris, going back to this. What has been your immediate recourse? What recourse has been available to you, Dan and Joey? What can you do? Obviously, you have to go to a lawyer.
Yeah.
So again, you have to put money out. Again,
Exactly.
other than the illegals that's been done to you, the abuse, the inconvenience, as Dan says, because they control all the amenities and all the amenities of the building, they can make it very uncomfortable for you. They can make it very uncomfortable and they can really, and they force you to now go get legal help. Is this the case?
Yeah, I mean, well, in bel-air Soho, what happened was we were actually, I think we were only the ones who was able to have an election.
Ah, so you succeeded.
Yeah,
So
we
you
did.
do you
This
now have your own
2012.
association?
We did have an election. We were able to gather a quorum. However, like what George have said, at the time of the election, when
Yes.
they know that they're not going to win, they just walked out. So it doesn't skip.
So no, yeah. That
Without
way
any adjournment, they
it's
just
delayed.
walked out.
Just walked out. No, that's
Yeah.
illegal. You can't just. Ano ito, impeachment all over again? Come on, man. It's 2013.
And then
You know?
what happened was that they didn't want to turn over to the new board of directors that were elected, who are actually unit
okay.
owners. And to see that these people who these companies have seated are not even unit owners. They are not even registered unit owners of the
Right,
of the condominium. So these are just employees or directors of other companies. No.
So can't you, as homeowners, the association, get a lawyer and run after these people and penalize them with money?
Actually, that's what we did. We had several cases filed against them.
And it only takes 100 years to resolve. Yeah.
That's why they
Well,
call
then,
it century.
unfortunately, when they fight back, they're using the funds of the corporation, of our condominium
Yeah,
corporation.
but while they're using that, while they're maximizing, you can make them accountable for every peso spent
Yeah, that's what
eventually
we plan
and
to do.
penalize and
Exactly.
penalize as well. But obviously, what you've got to do at this point, if I'm not mistaken, your purpose now, your objective is to shame these people because so many more Filipinos and foreigners maybe, or we are sure, are suffering the same fate.
Yeah.
Being the practice, this illegal practice, is actually ongoing and not being audited, and no one's addressing this. And this is the fate of many of the building proprietors, building unit proprietors or owners, and you're being subjected to this illegality, correct?
Yeah.
Alam mo, mali po ito. For all of you that are listening out there, when there is a wrong and you can source out these mistakes or these illegal practices and you bring it up to the forefront, there needs to be some type of retribution. You know, we can't just turn a blind eye. Just because we are not unit owners of condominiums, we'll just say, that's their problem. No. Other people's problem in your country become your problem as well. And turning a blind eye and not caring will one day knock on your door and it will hound you as well. This abusive management style has to be addressed, has to be brought out in media, has to be presented to you all listeners to make you realize, hey, there is an irregularity ongoing right in the open. They're even in media. They're even advertising in newspapers. They're telling you wrong information. What is worse is once they take your money, they use your money, probably turn over the unit you could probably live in, but only to find out you're in debt again because that company management that got your unit, got your money, is using your title to build another building to make more money. Now, we've got to bring this up to the authorities. Unfortunately, the agencies that are made or dictated or mandated by government to regulate ideas or practices like this are obviously lacking. They're not doing their job. So in this morning show, what we're doing is we're bringing out and talking about integrity. Obviously, the building operators are not brands. Now, at this point, we're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a very short break. Stay with us. Don't touch that dial. You never know where it's been, so we'll be right back.
This is VOA